there guys, this is Solid Shepherd bringing you another video, and today we are talking about why Skyward Sword HD is not only a good thing that it's coming, but why it was very much needed. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so as I was saying, reasons to why you should be excited, why you should want, and why Skyward Sword is really needed right now. Even though the Wii sold well, many gamers were not around back then. I think a lot of people, like myself included, who were around and were basically adults or young adults back during the Wii heyday, that was a while ago. There were a lot of gamers who potentially weren't even born at that point. A lot of the people who were around the age I was, or maybe a little bit younger during those years, weren't even really born yet. So there are a lot of people who just haven't really even had the opportunity. Even though the Wii did sell well, it was in a lot of homes. They might not have been around back then, unfortunately. That brings me to my next point here. Even people who were around back then, many who were around did not play it due to motion controls. I don't know if people remember, but the whole motion controls thing was a big deal breaker for a lot of people. I know it really was for me at first. I'm actually kind of excited about this because I ended up playing it eventually, but I never really beat it. Like that's the one Zelda game that I just never really get behind and beat. I end up watching a lot of lore and videos and stuff here on YouTube, so I know all about the story and the lore behind Skyward Sword, but I never actually got to play the whole thing, so I'm personally kind of excited about that. So yeah, a lot of people who were around didn't play because of the controls. Like they were around during that time. They had a Wii in their living room. It's just that they wanted the traditional Zelda experience, and unfortunately, they felt like it wasn't going to give them that because of the motion controls. Now, some reasons why you should be kind of looking forward to Skyward Sword in relations to Breath of the Wild. So, like, how it's connected to things that are in Breath of the Wild. First of all, you have the origin of the Master Sword and the spirit of the hero. I'm not going to go into any details in case anyone who is not aware, and it would be spoilers. But you basically have the story of the origin of the spirit of the hero, the origin of the spirit of the evil of Ganondorf, I'm just going to call it, to avoid spoilers there. And the origin of the Master Sword, how the Master Sword is created. And it's not really the origin of the Zelda, the reincarnation of the goddess, but it does go over that. Like, it at least kind of explains it a little bit. Another thing, if you guys remember in Breath of the Wild, the Master Sword, when Zelda went to go put it back in the pedestal, it started kind of glowing blue, and making a weird noise. That was Fi communicating with Zelda. So you, without getting into spoilers, you get to find out who Fi is. Basically, there's a construct within the Master Sword, basically. So you only ever get to really communicate with it in Skyward Sword, so there's that. And then first and last games chronologically. So Skyward Sword chronologically, as we've basically gone over, is the very first game in the series, and Breath of the Wild, and then once it comes out, Breath of the Wild 2 are the other end of the games chronologically, at the end of all timelines. Which is kind of weird, because if you want to get into timeline speculation, it's pretty much a well-accepted fact at this point that some kind of dragon break or something happened, which I still need to make a video on dragon breaks to explain that. But basically, all three timelines somehow merged into one, because there's like remnants and pieces of all three timelines. Like, there's evidence of all three timelines being it and not being it. So it's basically accepted that somehow they all merged into one timeline, and it's just like the ending of all three timelines. Now some other reasons. It was the last Zelda before Breath of the Wild. There's that. So if you're new to Zelda and you just hopped on Breath of the Wild, it's the most recent, I guess you could call it, updated kind of experience. It's the most recent Zelda before Breath of the Wild. It was the last game using the old Zelda conventions, but some things that were carried over to Breath of the Wild. So things like the stamina meter, stuff like that. Using items to upgrade your equipment, like AG Numa said during the Nintendo Direct, There's those things, but as far as like dungeons and most of the gaming mechanics, it still has most of the old Zelda conventions, which is very exciting. So if you've never gotten to experience that, you get to experience like good Zelda themed dungeons, equipment and all that. And another thing that also they got from it, I believe, was equipment durability, because your shield had a certain amount of durability in Skyward Sword. Even people who did play it, it has been 10 years since its release. Even people who were around back then, had a Wii, and played it, it's been a decade. It's been about a decade since the release, its initial release on the Wii. So even for people who were around back then playing it, it's still going to be a nice upgrade. It's a reason to get back and experience it again with better visuals. Really the biggest reason why anyone should be looking forward to it, because now you can play it without the motion controls. You can play it with a normal controller. Yeah, you gotta use the analog stick, which might cause some Joy-Con drift. It's still, you can play it like a standard Zelda with a controller, sit down and just push buttons and hit joysticks. That has me really excited. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you liked the video, please consider leaving a subscribe and a like. As always, this has been Solid Shepherd, and I should go.